Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. I am Wanda Curley, and I'm with you from Exton, Pennsylvania, where it is hot and muggy. Yes, we're having a heat wave right now. So without further ado, let's get going. I'm Wanda Curley, your expert on project, program, and portfolio management. This is brought to you by PM Powered, your consulting firm that brings you information and can help you with your consulting needs in project, program, and portfolio management. This podcast is brought to you to bring you some ideas and thoughts and things that are going on in project management that you probably wouldn't have the time to read about or hear about unless you listen to it from me. So without further ado, let's get going. So the first thing I have to bring to you is on artificial intelligence, and it's called 5 Action Steps for HR Leaders to Leverage Artificial Intelligence. Everybody's getting very scared about what artificial intelligence will do to the marketplace. There's big things about, it'll replace all jobs. Well, that's probably not true. It'll replace some of them, but not all of them. So let's see what's going on in the area of HR, because HR is near and dear to a project manager's heart. So one of the things they tell you to do if you're in the HR field is be curious about how AI can impact you, your team, and your HR function. Well, this is not any different than what should be happening with project managers. So that's why I was very interested in what this article had to say. So it says start researching AI tools. So some of the AI tools that they use in HR are PESA, a site that uses machine learning to provide salary information and career insights, XAI, a virtual AI-powered personal assistant, Textio, an AI-powered site which helps your recruiting team, and Ascendify, a firm that reimages internal talent mobility. If your company's not using this and you think it can help you from a project management perspective, push your HR team to start using it and become knowledgeable in those areas. So the second thing they talk about is understand the most important business problems to be solved by using AI. This we need to do in project management. You need to use it in HR. You need to use it in any area that you are where AI will be used. And I fear to say that AI will be used in all areas of business. So HR is ripe for taking a leadership position in this, and here are some ways AI can enhance the employee life cycle. Talent acquisition, new hire onboarding, career development, coaching. So we do all of those things in project management as well. So why not use some of the things that they use in HR? Begin to collect, number 3, begin to collect data on the business problem to be solved using AI in the workplace. McKinsey Global Institute research finds a focus on entire occupations being displaced is misleading. While nearly all occupations will be affected by automation, McKinsey finds that fewer than 5% of occupations can be entirely automated. So there you go. 5% of the jobs within your area might be automated through AI. So don't get real scared. 4, put yourself in your employee shoes. Transparency is key. That's true in project management as well. Make sure your employees understand the benefits of AI. You as a project manager should be telling your team that, and don't fear its ability to make certain tasks superfluous. What more can be said about that? I think AI was here to stay, and if we are transparent with our project teams, then it will be a powerful tool for us. And finally, in the HR domain, bring along a coalition of stakeholders on your journey to explore using AI in the workplace. Using AI in the workplace is not only an HR issue, but a business one as well. I can't say that more. If we harness AI, then we'll be able to use data in a more interesting way for our projects. So let's move on to the next thing. How to improve your memory according to neuroscience. I just thought it would be interesting to bring this out because we as project managers have a lot on our plates and a lot on our minds. So there are mental tricks like memory palaces and mnemonics can actually help make memories stick. Teachers have been telling us this for years. So neuroscience has now shown that it actually works. So what are some of the things that we can do to get our memories to work better. So some of these things we have known for years. It's just that now it's been proved through neuroscience. Get a good night's sleep. Your memory works better if you get a good night's sleep. Your mother's been telling you this, telling you this, your father's been telling you this, and so have your teachers. Exercise regularly. This is not something that we've been told all our lives, but we have been told many times that exercise helps our mental. Now it's been shown through neuroscience. So repeat or relearn the information later. Psychologists and others call this one the spacing effect. The idea is that the more you relearn or remind yourself of information again and again, spaced out over time, the better you'll retain the information. That goes along with what I have in my model, where that there's 3 different ways that we see the world. And if we put ourselves in somebody else's shoes, we learn from their perspective. So this goes on to say it. But you can't do it overnight. You can't do it in 1 week. It takes 3 to 6 months. So keep on learning something. Test yourself. Test yourself and make sure that you understand. People often think testing is useful because it tells you what you know and what you don't. But the more important power of testing is giving you practice retrieving information you've learned. So if you test yourself and knowing where to retrieve that information, your mind will go back and find it. Put the information in your memory palace. Some say this approach dates back to the ancient Latin scholars. And the article goes on to say, but it's also been proven in much more recent literature to work. The idea is if you want to remember something such as a shopping list or a code, you visualize those items or numbers in different rooms of your house. So there you go. If you pretend that you're standing in your living room and you remember that stuff, then think about it in your bedroom, think about it in a study. So there you go. Use a mnemonic device. We've done that in school all the time. So think about mnemonics to help you think about things. I can't think of one off the top of my head, but I'm sure one will come to you. One that they use in here is the word to remember. The Spanish word for juice is sumo. So you might conjure up an image in your head of a sumo wrestler drinking juice, and then you know if you hear the word sumo, you know that it's juice in Spanish. Pay attention. Sure, it's obvious. If you pay attention to what you're looking and not multitask, you're going to remember it. Make it relevant to your life. Based on neuroscience explanation of how memory works, if you really want to remember something, your best bet is trying to connect it to some part of your life. So figure out a part of your life that is relevant, and it will help. So those are the 8 items to make your memory work a little bit better. Again, a lot of it was things that we've learned through our life, but you just have to put it in practice. So what's the next thing? I listened to a great podcast, and it was on Next Gen Project Portfolio Management, What's the Future of PPM? And it was offered by Wickersoft. That's Wicresoft. And they are a partner with with Microsoft, excuse me. And they install MS Project Server and MS Project Online. So, and they talk about how AI is being instituted in MS Project Server and MS Project Online. So if you're using those 2 offerings by Microsoft, I highly recommend you look at Wickersoft and what they have to offer, because they really understand the product, and they can tell you through, and I'm sure if you go out to their site, you can find this podcast. It's very interesting and very on spot about how we need to put AI into all of our project management software. So next, meeting GDPR compliance with endpoints and mobile devices. I know I keep on talking about GDPR, and that happened on May 25th in in European Union, but it affected some of us it affected many companies in the United States. And so some of the got-yous of GDPR, they talk about in this article, but they talk about the top 5 criteria to look for in your UEM solution. So one is data containment. You want to make sure your data is just stored on the device and not on the server. Data encryption. Look for a solution that uses AES-256 CTR encryption algorithms. I'm not even going to pretend to know what that means, but if you're in the area of GDPR, you should know that. Local presence. In addition to meeting EU GDPR requirements, you need to take regional ordinances into consideration when protecting data privacy. So your cloud-based UEM should leverage contextual architected data centers. Cognitive insights and analytics, contextual analytics and insight using AI cognitive capabilities. A cloud-based platform. Need I say more? So those are the 5 areas that you should look at if you're having GDPR issues. So I wanted to look at the future of what's going on and might help project managers. And if you're working on this, I sure would love to hear from you and have you on one of my podcasts, because this would be great to discuss. But this article is from Singularity Hub, and it's called The New Energy Storage Tech Gates. The new energy storage tech that Gates, Bezos, Ma, and Branson are investing in. And it's a new type of battery, and it's called a flow battery. And this is where the energy storage and energy release process takes place. The chamber is separated in 2 by a membrane that ensures the liquids that don't come into actual contact with each other. And there is a diagram that shows that, and it's basically that. But it's 2 tanks containing some form of electroactive chemical elements. The liquid is pumped through a central charging chamber containing positive and negative electrodes, anode and cathodes. So they're having some issues and making that small enough that it's compatible for how we use batteries now. But it looks like something that's coming in the offing, and this is an MIT company. It's spun off from MIT. So it's interesting that these major tech giants, Gates, Bezos, Ma, and Branson, are investing in it. So if you're a project manager working on that, I sure would love to hear from you on this area. Contact me at wanda@pmpower.com. So PMI just came out with their new PM network, and I wanted to share something because they have an article on scope creep, and they said 52% of projects completed in the last 12 months experienced scope creep or uncontrolled changes to the project scope. That's up from 43% from 5 years ago. That's amazing to me that we can't control our projects any better. So some of the preventative measures that they say for scope creep, from preventing scope creep, and these are nothing new, but evidently project managers are not using them in a more effective way, is limit timeliness. Don't make your time boxes more than 2 weeks. Make them short and to the point, so you know that the information is getting, so you know that the work is getting done, and that you don't have scope creep coming into those. What's out of bounds? When you're planning your project, not only do you plan what's in scope, but clearly define what's out of scope and build contingencies. Mitigation strategies for scope creep need to be put in place. If you don't do that, then you will have scope creep happen. And also make sure that you understand that scope creep isn't all the time bad. So for example, if you're working on a project and somebody said, hey, this would be really great on this project, you might want to consider it as part of your project and bring it in. But you need to do the right analysis for that. So make sure that you understand scope creep, and sometimes you need to look at it and see if it makes sense for your project. So that's from the PM network, but what's going on in the world of project management as well, and especially in the area of PMI? Well, from 9 to 11 September, There's the 2018 PMI Africa Conference. From 11 to 12 September, the PMI Sacramento Valley chapter is having an agile, business-driven, and mindful PMO. 19 to 21 September, PMI New Zealand chapter is having their New Zealand Project Management Conference. 24 to 27 September, PMI Minnesota chapter is having a professional development days. October 2018, 12 to 13 October, PMI India and PMI North India chapters having their PMI India national items. From 19 July, there's a webinar called Project Headways with Cultural Shapes Everything. And that's true, culture does shape everything. Some things that are coming up in PMI events, the Pmi Global Conference is happening in Los Angeles from 6 to 8 October, and the PMI Symposium is happening in Washington, D.C. from 11 to 14 November. Seminars Worlds, 30 July to 2 August, it's in Portland, Oregon. 6 to 9 August, it's in Boston, Massachusetts. 27 to 30 August in Washington, D.C. 24 to 27 September in St. Louis. And 2 to 5 October and 9 to 10 October, it's happening in Los Angeles, so before and after the Global Congress. And 12 to 15 November in Chicago, Illinois. So that's what's going on in the area of PMI. But what else is going on in the project management area? Well, the Project Management Journal just came out. And one thing that there was a long article from the editor that talked about how Project Management Journal now is partnered with Sage Publishing, and this has opened up the Project Management Journal in many academic and practitioner forums. So if you're really wanting to publish, I would highly recommend, especially if you're an academic or maybe a practitioner that wants to hit into the academic circles, that you now consider Project Management Journal, because they are up with Sage Publishing, and Sage is in many areas of academia, because I am also a full-time professor, so I see Sage Publishing all the time. So what's going on in the area of the PM Journal? Well, there's several things that I think that are very good articles. There's Virtues and Vices in Project Management Ethics. Ethics is always a big area. Corruption as a source of government project failures in developing countries. Digging for change, contractual complexity in construction projects, tackling project management competence, research, and project managers' competences, and the influence of behavior competencies in project performance. A lot of good articles. I suggest you look at them. So what's next? I talk about Projectified every now and then. That's a PMI podcast. They come out 2 to 3 times a month, and it's the same people all the time, but they do have some good things to talk about. The latest one, which came out on 27 June, is Women in Project Leadership, That We Are Gaining Ground. This is by Jane Caniff. I would recommend listening to this. It was pretty good one. There was one on the EMEA Congress. It was all right. It wasn't something that really piqued my interest too much, but if you attended the EMEA Congress and you missed parts of it, I would highly recommend that you listen to it. So let's go on to a couple of more things. So I also talk about the Internet of Things. So here was a good article on Business to Community, and it talks about the 6 effects of the Internet of Things on project management. And I thought it was kind of interesting because I too believe in these 6 items. IoT enables hyperspeed reporting, and I absolutely believe that. Hyper-connected devices and constant flow of data, that automated systems will speed things up considerably. There's no more idle time while we're waiting for activities to happen, and there's no more silos. So this will be great for project management. IoT allows complete monitoring and process control. Again, I believe this is going to be a powerful thing for project management. It will allow project managers, management, and stakeholders to monitor and control activities in real time. The overall snapshot of a comprehensive system is monitored on a single screen, which allows overseers to immediately attend to any interruptions. The third thing, IoT creates an explosion of valuable project data. In the past, archiving historical data was a time and labor-intensive process. With the IoT, historical data will become available immediately, which is extremely helpful. Today, we don't know what to do with archived data. It sits maybe out on SharePoint forever, and we don't know how to access it. IoT will make that a thing of the past. IoT allows super deep data analytics. With IoT comes advanced data analytics, and advanced data analytics requires advanced interpretation and management. Project managers must upgrade their skills related to data handling. They have got to understand how to handle the data. Number 5, IoT ushers in stricter ethical and legal implications. With the more data you have, the more ethical and legal implications there are. So today's internet connected devices send data to each other extremely fast. We're not dealing with dial-up modems anymore. One error could create a domino effect that could topple an entire project, or in extreme cases, an entire career. I don't know that it'll be that dramatic, but I can see where projects, if the project manager doesn't look at the data correctly, the project could end up toppling. Number 6, IoT raises expectations for all stakeholders. Once companies adopt IoT, the marketplace will be transformed into a level playing field. Only the strongest and the fittest will survive, because everybody will have access to the data. So I highly recommend that you start incorporating IoT. It's coming, folks. Here's another one. Are you passionately curious? It's IT project management success secret. So one project manager who always brings in his A game to all projects, which I highly recommend that you do, but he started looking at passion, and he found out that when he was passionate about a project, an IT project, it seemed to work out a whole lot better. And he says it doesn't even have to be sexy new apps, or it can be just to keep the lights on, that it depends on your passion about it. And I found this quite curious. So he took Professor Lowenstein's of Carnegie Mellon's a theory that the more passionate we have about something, the better that we have. And it has to do with curiosity. So even if you've been on a project of the same thing, an IT project that is same thing, if there's a question on there that you still don't understand, or that is something new to you, even though you've done that before, you will have that curiosity, and it'll make you bring your A game even more powerfully. But if you're on a project that you understand, or all the questions seem answered to you, you won't be as passionate about it, so you won't bring your A game to it, even though you think you are going to. So understand, when you're looking at projects, whether you want to take them and do them, make sure that there's some question that that you don't understand, or that you want answered on that project that you're going to do, and then you'll bring your A game. And I don't think this is just for IT projects. I think it's for all projects. So here's another one that I thought was interesting. It's called Under New Management: What Happens When People Have More Autonomy at Work? And they're talking about project managers. And I think this is true. And so it says, compared to decades past, today's workplace is defined by more flexible workspaces. So 74% of employees have the ability to move to different areas to do their work, and I think that's true. More flexible work time. 52% of employees say they have some choice over when they work, which is great. If you're a night person, it might be working at night. More remote working. 43% of employees work away from their team at at least some of the time. Just think about how many teams are remote nowadays. And more matrix teams. 84% of employees are matrix to some extent. If you're a project manager, you've probably matrixed all your life in project management. But it goes on to say that what happens when people have more autonomy at work, empirical evidence, that means that it's done by academics, shows a correlation to increased performance and engagement, as well as more sensitivity to failure when people have more independence at work. So can you believe it? I have said that all the time. So if you're a project manager and you're allowed to make your own decisions and allow your team to make more decisions, they're more autonomous and they feel the pain when things don't work correctly because they had a stake in the game with that happen. So consider that to be the future of how we're going to work. And with IoT and AI coming up, you're going to have to make your teams more autonomous. If you don't, you can't control the data because it's available to everybody. Then one last little thing I wanted to bring up. There's a $174 million federal project in Alabama. So there's a groundbreaking for the massive $174 million NNSA headquarters in Albuquerque, New Mexico, and that started on July 2nd, last Monday. So the Montgomery's Caldwell Construction is beginning work on a massive $174 million building project in New Mexico, and it's on Kirkland Air Force Base, and it's the new headquarters for the National Nuclear Security Administration. So it's a 334,000 square foot building, and it'll accommodate 1,200 employees, and it'll include office space, data centers, a fitness center, secure areas, and vault type areas and rooms. So congratulations to Caldwell Construction. So it'll be interesting to see how this construction goes forth, because we know that government construction sometimes falls into many sticky areas for some reason. So I'd be interested to see if this goes off without a hitch. As usual, this podcast has been brought to you by PM Powered, at your consulting company for project, portfolio, and program project, program, and portfolio areas in project management. I hope you'll consider using us for your needs. Please go to PM Current and link to my Facebook, my YouTube, my LinkedIn, and my Twitter accounts. I'd love to have you follow me on those areas. If you are a project manager on any of the areas that we discussed, please contact me on wanda@pmpowered.com. Also, if you have an event that you would like me to sponsor on my podcast, I'd love to hear from you. Send me an email and I will make sure to mention it on my podcast. If there's an area I'm not looking at, or an area that you disagree with me, or that you agree and you'd love to give me some feedback, I'd love to hear from you. Again, please contact me on wanda@pmpowered.com. It's been my pleasure to bring you this podcast, and I look forward to seeing you next Monday. Have a great week.